It's a good day to talk to Bryan Bulaga, former Packer tackle. He will be announcing the second-round picks in this NFL draft, so get ready to see Bryan on TV. You can also see him on YouTube at ESPN Madison, at ESPN Milwaukee. We are Kyle Brusson-Norman, and we welcome in the future Packer Hall of Famer, Bryan Bulaga. What's up, Bryan?
Guys, how's it going? Ready for day 2 here?
Yes, I'm excited, and I spent the first 36 minutes with Brad Nortman with a very emotional Kyle Wallace because he thinks it's about him. He wanted to go for need. He wanted defense. The board fell the way Goody wanted to fall, and based off of the way that Goody drafted last year, he doesn't have a lifetime pass, but I think he gets a year pass. He saw what he wanted. I love getting a guy that's versatile. If they can make him a left tackle in the future, move Rasheed Walker to right tackle, Zach Tom to center. I think it's perfect. Tell me why I'm right, because I think you'll agree, and tell Kyle why he's stupid.
Well, I think well, first off, let's say I'm good with the pick. I'm good with the pick. Last time I talked to you guys, I said offensive line, potentially DB in round 1, and that's where they went. Now, where they could have gone, I mean, I really like the guy from Duke. It is what it is. Goody saw something in this guy that they really liked. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, this guy is versatile. I do want to, I know Demovsky put this report out by some scouts inside the Packers building that they think Zach Tom is a Hall of Fame center. And to me, we got to pump the brakes on that. That's got, the life of that has to be, stopped. Because you don't move Pro Bowl or potential All-Pro tackles to center. So we got to, pump the brakes on that for a little bit.
Bryan Bulaga says stop the talk of Zach Tom to center. Because
we got to.
And if Bryan Bulaga, someone who played for the Packers and was a very successful tackle, says so, I, as Ben Bruss, will never say that again until he gives me permission to.
But we look at this new, Jordan Morgan, new guy. He projected also to play inside at guard, which we all know depth is needed. And, there could be something that happens in the future that potentially, if Myers doesn't get re-signed, we have a guy on the roster right now, Elton Jenkins, that could play at a really high level at center, potentially. And, a new left guard gets filled in. So it all depends on which way they go. I mean, this is all down the line because the starting lineup is going to be what it's going to be this year with obviously a high competition at left tackle now. But I like the pick. I think we're going to see some depth and some guys getting picked in the second, third round here that are going to be kind of, Kyle, what you're looking for. The defensive side of the football needs are going to be addressed in the second and third round if I had to take a guess.
Bryan, with these draft evaluations and prospect evaluations, you got to find some positive and you got to find some negatives. All the negatives I'm seeing on Morgan has a lot to do with measurables, arm length. That keeps on being brought up. That's a big thing. But then I also saw on Twitter that those same measurables, they put those, mirrored them next to your owns, and a bunch of people were saying, well, hey, wait a minute. Bryan Bulaga, first round offensive lineman, had an amazing career, reliable, just the kind of guy that you hope this guy can be. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. So you lived it. You had a ton of success. Why is everyone making a big deal out of arm length? Is that really a big deal? Are these measurables even important, or is that completely
tell us,
overblown?
alligator arms.
Yeah, I mean, let's
Beautiful
be real.
arms, Bryan.
There's got to be something for somebody to talk about, right? And if we're going to nitpick guys, which is what they do this time of year, and when guys get drafted and they show their highlights up on TV and they're talking about this and talking about that, I mean, talking about arm length is something that, I remember it when I was coming through. It was a knock on me, and it is what it is. Everyone
It doesn't matter, though, right?
To me, no. If you play fundamentally sound, play within yourself, play with good technique, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, I told Wildy and Tausch, they know really well, there's a guy that just got put into the Hall of Fame this last time. He played at the University of Wisconsin. Named Joe Thomas, did not have long arms, but somehow he figured out a way to become a Hall of Fame player. So it's all based on what you do with what you got and how you're able to figure out your weaknesses really quick, because you got to figure them out quick in the NFL. You figure out your weaknesses and you fix your game around what you don't do well and make sure you hide those things. Everyone's going to find stuff on tape you're not good at, but hide them and, make sure you dictate the game as you're taking on these pass rushers. And if he does that, he'll be fine. But you have to find yourself and what you do best and what you don't do best and figure that out in camp and make sure you implement a plan to kind of make sure that people don't take advantage of those things.
We're speaking with Bryan Bulaga, former Green Bay Packer, who's in Detroit getting at the NFL draft, going to make the picks. Something I dream of doing one day.
You keep dreaming.
I'm gonna keep
ain't no Bryan Bulaga.
I'm about Bryan Bulaga, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. One day I'll get famous enough.
Ask your damn question.
But anyway, Bryan Bulaga live from the draft. Going to be making the pick tonight. Can't wait to see him on TV tonight. But you said you were good with the pick, but it doesn't sound like you were blown away with the first-round pick of Jordan Morgan. What must the Packers do tonight to make you feel even better about the direction of the team moving forward?
Yeah, listen, it's so hard to say I'm not good with the pick or good with the player when I don't know much about the player, right? You can read all you want about him from breakdowns and evaluations and what people have said, and it really doesn't make any difference until we actually see him in action and we can kind of, I guess we all can evaluate him based on that.
We knew when we drafted Bryan Bulaga, we all jumped for joy because we knew we got a guy that was going to be a really good starter. Like, you can tell,
Yeah, listen, obviously I had some more accolades behind my name than this young man did, but that's all, that's just what it is, right? That's all things, but I always like to look at, especially tackle play, right? If we're thinking he's going to play left tackle, I like to see how he does in training camp. I want to see how he moves in training camp and see him in person and how he moves and how he blocks Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith and Van Ness. We got good pass rushers for him to go against to evaluate on. So that's a big deal. And now hitting your second part of your question, I think for me personally, I really want to see Goody take defense and secondary defense, these first few picks or whatever he does with these second round picks. I want to see secondary. There's some good players out there, right? There's some good guys. Kool-Aid, Cooper. We got some solid guys out there that he could potentially make some moves for. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe, he's holding that 9th pick in the second round. And then I think it's like the 59th overall pick or something like that. See if he maybe packages the 59th and maybe a 4th or something and tries to move back up in the second round to get the two guys that he really wants, whether that's DeJean and Kool-Aid or whoever it may be, whoever he's targeting. Because I think when you look at football teams in general, your first round guys are what they are. But you build rosters from round 2 to essentially round 4 or 5. And this is why him having so many picks between round 2 and round 5 is such a big deal because he can add some really good players these next few days. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
Talking with Bryan Bulaga right now on Kyle Bruston Ortman. You had some fun with Willie and Tausch this morning. If you missed that, check it out from 9 to noon on podcast or on YouTube. And the dream of Cooper DeJean being selected and Bryan Bulaga saying his name. Listen in.
Cooper DeJean, safety, Iowa.
Oh, that is so
right.
No, that was him earlier today practicing if it does happen.
About to say, I hope you didn't get AI'd, buddy.
No. That was all me. Let's be honest. What do you guys want to see? I want to hear a poll of what you guys would like to see. It's always, it's always interesting, the opinions. Obviously, we all understand that O-line needed to be addressed, right? We all are on board with that. I think if you're not on board with that, we got to talk about what we had going on before last night with the depth of the position. But now here we go.
No Nyman. It made sense, and I think we're all in agreement there. Kyle just wanted to need earlier.
Bakhtiari didn't play at all last year, and Yash Nyman was trash last year. The offensive line, again, it's not about the fact that I don't like Jordan. It's about the fact
you just don't value the offensive line.
I value offensive line, but what I have seen the Green Bay Packers do, they have developed a lot of great offensive linemen without having to draft them high up. And
I guess, you know what? That is the one thing, Bryan, I do want you to answer before we let you go. And I do have more, but I want to give you time in Detroit to enjoy your day. Kyle makes a good point, right? We talk about all these fourth rounders that turned into great offensive linemen. We talked about it last night with Mark Chmura in the draft show, right? The Packers have a way of making the offensive line good to great, kind of no matter what organizationally. So why go in the first round when you do have potential of building with second, third, fourth round guys? Was it just the way the board fell? Or, again, just take us through that, because it's the one thing that Kyle says that I'm like, well, why did they go early for O-line?
No, I mean, the team has definitely had a lot of success turning third, fourth round picks into like all pro caliber players. There is no doubt about that, right? But that, I feel like if you look as a whole, that is like an exception to the rule, right? Like that doesn't happen often. So like if you look at, I mean, I guess you got to look at the breakdown of that ESPN release of the last how many drafts. If you draft a tackle, what's the hit rate on it? It's really high, right? Like I think it's probably like a 68 or 69% hit rate of offensive tackles being drafted in the first round. Those guys, if they're good, the team will re-sign them, and that's counted as a hit by the team. So statistically, you're looking at it as if we take a tackle in round one, there's a chance he's going to be a guy that we have around for 8 to 10 years. And when you look at the stability of an offensive line, you got to have guys that are going to be centerpieces for long term. So you already look at them right now, right? Like Zach Tom's obviously one of those guys. Elton Jenkins has been one of those guys. Now you draft a left tackle hoping he's going to be one of those guys, whether it's at guard or at left tackle, however he performs and it shakes out. So it's okay to add depth in the third and fourth round because you got to have solid guys. And you know what? If those guys end up being David Bakhtiari and being Josh Sitton and being TJ Lang and being Corey Linsley and being Mark Tauscher, that is a absolute giant bonus. And it doesn't happen all the time. Green Bay's been really fortunate with it, obviously. And I kind of, partially credit it to the success of the franchise drafting quarterbacks. When you have franchise quarterbacks, there's a different mentality and mindset in the offensive line room than, say, if you're blocking for, good quarterback, but we'll just say like a Trevor Lawrence. If you got Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, and now Jordan Love, and these are truly franchise special type players, or you believe Jordan Love is going to be that, the offensive line mentality changes a bit because you understand that I need to be a good to elite level player to even start on this offensive line because the money invested in the position behind me is so great that if I can't cut it, I'm out of here. And it doesn't look good when guys get shipped out of places when you have an elite level quarterback. That means they don't trust you with the guy, and that's a big deal. It's a responsibility. So their guys develop a certain mentality, and I can only speak for the guys that I played with: Lang, Sitton, Bach, Corey, all later round picks. Dudes had elite mindsets because they knew what it took to get it done blocking for Aaron Rodgers. And there's a certain pressure that gets put on guys, whether you're drafted in the first round, the fifth round, doesn't matter. In this offensive line room, if you want to cut it, you got to develop into a hell of a player to play. So I'm hoping you look at Jordan Love. I think we all agree he's something special, right? And you hope that pressure then moves into the O-line room that, hey, we got to develop if we want to get on this field. And obviously, when the quarterback gets paid, linemen get paid. If they go hand in hand, right? Like if you got good linemen and good quarterback, the quarterback gets paid first, and the linemen get the trickle down from that. So like you want to be part of that mix. So I think that's what's been so good for Green Bay over the last 30 plus years now. You got great quarterback play. You're normally going to get pretty good offensive line play with it. That if you look out through the history of the NFL, name me great quarterbacks that have had terrible offensive lines and sustained it. Not many. Like, think about it for a second. Like, all those years Brady had, those O-lines were studs.
Jeff Saturday was Peyton Manning's best friend for a reason.
Yeah. So you just got to look at that from that standpoint of great quarterbacks equal great offensive lines, and that's a mentality that's developed through that room. And hopefully that's what's kind of going on in Green Bay right now.